Imagine standing before an immense, dimly lit canvas, as if a veil of shadow hovers over the scene. You are drawn into a somber courtyard, enclosed by rough, stone walls, which are bathed in a murky golden light. The space feels oppressive, heavy with the weight of an impending, irreversible act. The air itself seems thick with tension, as though holding its breath. At the painting's center, St. John lies prone, almost lifeless, his body sprawled across the cold stone floor. His skin is pallid, contrasting starkly against the dark tones surrounding him. His head rests awkwardly on the ground, neck exposed, awaiting the final stroke. There's no motion from him anymore, only the sad surrender of a man whose fate has been sealed. His hands, bound behind his back, are twisted, the ropes biting into his flesh, a silent reminder of his helplessness. Above him, the executioner looms like a shadow, broad and muscular, with his knees bent and his arm drawn back. He holds the sword mid-swing, suspended in the unbearable moment between life and death. His face is shrouded in indifference, a job to be done. He exudes cold detachment, a man to whom violence is routine, and yet there is something crude, almost awkward in his posture. His body strains with the brutal force required to complete the act. To the left, a prison guard, stocky and dressed in armor, watches the scene unfold. His eyes are narrowed, lips set in a grim line, as though he bears witness to something profane yet inevitable. His hand rests on the hilt of his sword, but he makes no move to intervene. His presence is one of cold authority, a guardian of the law in this twisted moment of justice. In the foreground, there are two women witnessing the horror. One, dressed in drab robes, stands stiffly, her hands pressed to her mouth in shock. Her eyes, wide with terror, are fixed on the scene, as though she cannot look away from the violence unfolding before her. The other woman, likely Salome, gazes down at the scene with a cool detachment, a servant waiting for the gruesome task to be completed. Her hands are outstretched, ready to receive the severed head, her expression devoid of any visible humanity. The only hint of warmth in the painting comes from the muted tones of their robes and the subtle glimmers of light reflecting off their skin. Yet even this is swallowed by the overwhelming gloom that dominates the composition. The darkness swirls, enveloping each figure, pressing in from every corner of the frame, as if the very space is closing in around them. On the ground, a pool of blood, stark red and vivid, spills from St. John's neck, creeping slowly across the stone floor. It is the only movement in the scene, a visceral reminder of mortality. The blood glistens, capturing what little light there is, as it snakes its way toward us, drawing us deeper into the scene. The sheer stillness in the air is broken only by the imagined sound of the blood's slow trickle, a reminder that time marches on, even in the face of death. The mood is one of grim finality. The heavy shadows and the almost unnatural stillness of the figures imbue the scene with a sense of profound melancholy. There is no outcry, no plea for mercy, only the cold, mechanical process of execution. The painting transmits an overwhelming sense of injustice and the cruelty of fate. Caravaggio's masterful use of chiaroscuro, with the interplay between light and darkness, emphasizes the moral ambiguity of the scene. It's not just about the moment of death, but the deep, existential void that follows, a chilling silence that echoes far beyond the canvas. You feel a profound sense of sorrow, helplessness, and unease as you imagine the scene, emotions woven into the very fabric of the painting. It's as though the artist is whispering into the darkness. Life, in all its fragility, can be snuffed out in an instant, leaving only blood, stone, and silence.